Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I have got a really cringy review for you today on a site called WAC, and apparently that stands for Women Write About Comics, or something like that. That's basically what this is. And what I'm going to show you is an example of why the comic book industry has moved so far left and has gotten very extreme in its messaging. And that is exactly because of activists like this that insist that comic books be political and or a responsibility or a platform for their politics and not entertainment, first and foremost. And so I'm going to go through that. And before we do, Fatal is on Indiegogo right now. Check it out in the link in the description below. This is a book you're not going to want to miss out on. It has got some of the very best art, and I'm really proud of the story. So I'd put this up against anything in the comic book industry. So check it out, back it. There's only 5 days left. All right, so review Rorschach number 1 is it's dangerous and irresponsible. So the assumption here is that there is a responsibility to have a certain position and use comics as a platform. And the second one is that the comic book matters enough that it is dangerous. You know, it can hurt somebody. No concept creep. If you say it's dangerous, that means there is danger involved. It doesn't mean that you disagree with it or it hurts your fifis. That is not danger. All right, so here it goes right off the bat. Woof. Why do they always say woof? I don't get that. Woof, man. I had a low bar for this book, but it managed to limbo right under it. The thing that angers me about Rorschach number 1 lies once again in the vast irresponsibility of King's narrative. Uh-oh. He shirked his responsibility. Responsibility to whom? What has happened here? Let's find out. Is it to the source material? Is it to his readers? No, it is to the country. It is the greater good. All right, so it continues. Rorschach number 1 comes out in a terrifying time in American history. Just a week before the book came out, a plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan by an armed right-wing militia was brought to light. She saw one article about a few crazy people that wanted to. I heard vaguely about this news story. I don't know much about it. Heard that it had happened, but this is an example of just cherry picking one news story, that underlines who the bad people are, and then therefore, because this news story happened well after this book was written and drawn, by the way, you had a responsibility to say it was bad, something like that. All right, it continues. What makes King's story so irresponsible and dangerous is that he's once again playing the there are bad people on both sides game. But in reality, we have a very real, very dangerous threat from heavily armed right-wing extremists, people that are presenting a clear and present danger to this country and its citizens. Clear and present danger. What would be the response? What would be the appropriate response if you had right-wing militias all over the country that were presenting a clear and present danger? I would think that it would be to go to war, to jail these people, to exterminate them, like whatever you got to do, you have to stop them, right? You have to stop this from happening. But no, in this case, the solution is to just be more responsible with your comic book writing. Oh, I see now. And this is you pick one news story and then apply it to the rest of the country. This gets worse. Trust me. So it continues. Tom King, however, introduces us to Will Myerson, a reclusive comic book creator. At first glance, I took this as a direct insult to Alan Moore, and that's of course because she has been reading this with the intent to be offended by the book, and so she's desperately grasping to find something to take offense of. It continues, but after reading further, Myerson fits closer to Steve Ditko, who I will add is completely on a different end of the political spectrum than Alan Moore. And don't speak of Alan Moore as though he's passed away. I don't understand why people do that. Okay, so it continues. Indeed, King has said in interviews that Meyerson is his answer to what if Steve Ditko idolized a liberal philosopher instead of a conservative libertarian Ayn Rand. And by the way, it's a objectivist Ayn Rand. She was an objectivist. Two big problems arise with this. The first and aforementioned both sightings, and that's what he's guilty of, is both sightings. If you acknowledge that things are complicated and that people are gray and often bad a lot of times, then you're guilty of both sightings. You should only say one sighting. Okay, it continues. I, for one, have not seen a lot of news stories about liberal militias. Where are you getting your news from? Oh my goodness. You haven't seen news stories about liberal militias? Does Antifa count? Do mobs rioting and looting count? Burning down? Things have been happening for months based off of left wing activists, so called liberals, so called progressives. You haven't seen any news stories about any of this, but you could cherry pick literally one story, but not the vast number of things that have been going on over the course of months. They've been everywhere. How have you not seen this? I am in shock. Uh, my goodness. All right, so it continues. On the other hand, I've seen quite a few news stories about conservative militias. And by quite a few, you mean the one story? Uh, King is making a villain out of something that doesn't exist. Really? Could it be that this is fiction and that you can make a villain out of anything and that villain doesn't have to exist in real life? Could that be the case? Could you just make up a villain? How dare you? It has to be a real bad guy in real life. That's how fiction works. Oh gosh. All right, she goes on. And in doing so, it is playing right into the hands of hate groups like Comicsgate. There you go. That's how you totally have turned a review into just hate mongering. Comicsgate is not a hate group, first off. And then why did you blank out comics? Probably because you didn't want me to find this and read it. I guess I'm so confused. All right, so those hate groups are going to have a field day with this book. No, I don't think so. I think you are overestimating the interest in this book. I think nobody's really going to buy it, and it won't matter. It'll go unnoticed. Especially after the absolute mess that was Jay Lee's involvement with their little He-Man Woman Haters Club a few months ago. Oh gosh. They will latch onto this and treat King like he was on their side all along and praise him for his tearing down of the liberal elites. Oh no, I don't see that happening at all. Not at all. uh, People will continue not to like Tom King because of his writing and because of him trying to cancel Jay Lee. Because Tom King has got his own issues to work out. They're not going to read Rorschach #1 and then suddenly find that they like Tom King for some reason. All right, so this is the exact sort of crowd I expect to pick up Rorschach #1. You're wrong. And rather than use this platform to attack extreme right wing violence, it encourages it. And that, my friends, is why the comic book industry is so messed up. You can deny it. You can say that comic books have no agenda. You can say that they've always been that way. And so there's nothing special happening now. But right here is the proof. It is right in your face. If comic books aren't seen as a platform for attacking people that they disagree with politically, then those left-wing activists are going to see no use in those comics. So rather than say, hey, can we agree that comic books should probably take a neutral stance, generally speaking, when it comes to politics? Could we not have comic books that people have loved and enjoyed for years just pick out and single out one single type of fan, fans that disagree with my agenda and vilify them uh, instead? And you say it in plain English here, use it as a platform to attack. That is the goal with comics. It's right here. Rich Johnson proved me wrong. It says it right here. All right, so furthermore, using Steve Ditko as the basis of your villain is extremely insulting in many ways I can barely comprehend. Gosh, well, everything's just so offensive, you can't comprehend it. It is using a book that is already a slap to the face of the past creators and taking that insult just one step further. The milking of the Watchmen franchises. And this is where they go on about how Alan Moore is a victim. Uh, and the more I am reading from Alan Moore and his opinions, I think he likes to be the odd man out, and so it kind of doesn't really matter what happens with books and storytelling or with culture and society and politics. He's going to be unhappy with it because that's just his position. He likes to be an outsider politically. All right, it continues. So to do this to Ditko, the creator of the character on which Watchmen was based, is just vile. So here's the thing, though: nothing was done to Steve Ditko. It was a question, like an Elseworld Steve Ditko. That's not Steve Ditko at all. It's just somebody that is very fervent about their political philosophy, and they follow it to a T, and they want to follow it. So if Alan Moore can write a book that's politically minded, but no one else can, though. It's so weird, the set of rules that they have set up. Right, so it continues. I'm disgusted by this callousness toward men that King claims to respect. Oh gosh, maybe just don't go in to read comics to be offended. Go watch a documentary if you want to be offended or something. Turn on CNN if you want to be offended. Turn on CNN. All right. It feels like a critique of Moore's complaints that his characters continue to be used in ways he did not intend, arguing that Moore himself used Ditko's characters in a way that wasn't intended. Oh, well, would you look at that? Maybe that could be an argument that you could explore, right? Maybe Alan Moore is not, you know, some divine deity to comics. That could be the case too. And people act like Alan Moore's dead. He's not dead. He's alive. He's quit comics. He doesn't care about comics anymore. That's what he said himself. All right. So, but there's one thing about the argument. Moore didn't use Ditko's creations. Night Owl isn't Blue Beetle. Rorschach isn't the question. These, yeah, okay. So, but you can be inspired by things, and I think that's part of the point here is that again, you can take inspiration from anything and just make it. And then here you go. You shouldn't try to do this going against his wishes. Again, the man's not dead. DC Comics has done this to every single creator that they have paid to make books for them. They sell more, they make more books. That's what happens. Don't work for DC. I get it. Like, you should own your own stuff. I get it. Don't do it for DC or Marvel then. Like, just don't. The whole creator owned thing wasn't happening. So why should you expect it to happen now? They'll never stop milking the Watchmen because it was a well of infinite money for them. Yeah, I mean, of course. Is this a surprise to anybody? I mean, it's consistent with what they've always done. And I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that's how it works. So again, don't write it for DC then. The second problem is the Philosopher King chose to replace Ayn Rand as the inspiration for this alternate version of Ditko, who, I have to add, for all his faults, was never the violent extremist that King turned Meyerson into. That's right, he's not Steve Ditko. This is a fake character he's made up. Instead of Rand, King has said that Meyerson idolized Hannah Arendt. Yeah, that's Rand Arendt. There we go. At first glance, this seems like an apt choice. Arendt was a well-known writer, a Jewish refuge from World War II, and wrote a lot of the natures of good and evil. Excuse me. He wrote a lot about the natures of good and evil, but a closer look at her is enough to make you question if she was the right choice. Well, again, this is fiction. It's just a choice, the right choice. Who would you pick for a liberal philosopher that you're going to be insulted by, him choosing for the book? It makes no sense. All right. She was romantically involved with this guy who was an avowed member of the Nazi party. Well, there you go. She's a Nazi. She also spoke on behalf of, I don't World War. So this is history, therefore racist, therefore should not be the inspiration of a villain in a comic book. You see how silly this is? Again, go get into politics. Don't read comics if this is what you're looking for. All right. I think this is about it. I don't want to. This is a longer thing. I don't want to go into it too much, but I'll get you to the very end here. Rorschach #1 is a horrifying display of centrism that is going to embolden the fans of the character who are already terrifying in their treatment of women and minorities online. It serves as a call to arms of the absolute worst parts of fandom, and I am loath to see it get praised by anyone upon its release. I won't praise it because I'm not interested in reading it. I'll tell you that. I think a lot of people aren't interested in reading it. You read it because you wanted to be offended. Congratulations. You were offended by it. And at the same time, if your problem is with centrists, in your own words, not even extremists, centrists that want comics to be even-handed and again, put entertainment first, put the readers first, then maybe you ought to look in the mirror and ask yourself, if you're so upset with all these so-called centrists in entertainment, they just want entertainment, maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're an extremist then. That only makes sense. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Let me know your thoughts. Have you read Rorschach? Are you deeply offended by all of it, none of it, part of it? And don't forget to back Fatal. It's on Indiegogo. It's in the link in the description below in this video. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Goodbye.